The time has come where Europe might be going much more woke, much more insane than USA. A lot of my videos focus on comparing the two, especially that I do come from a mostly conservative European country, and I live in one now too. At some point during the past few months, I noticed that Europe started competing with USA when it came to crazy wokeness levels. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I must say, Europe has officially gone more woke. At least for now, and on my own imaginary wokeness scale. Scotland, for those who don't know, is a country in Europe, has come out with a new hate crime law. And it's so ridiculous that JKROWLING herself publicly called it out and said she is okay to go to prison over this. Anyway, take a look.
JKROWLING is back in the headlines for challenging police in Scotland to arrest her. The Harry Potter author posted on social media saying she looks forward to being arrested while pointing out her major concerns over a new law that has come into effect in Scotland. The Hate Crime and Public Order Act makes it an offence to stir up hatred with threatening or abusive behaviour on the basis of characteristics including age, disability, religion, sexual orientation and transgender identity. But the legislation doesn't specifically ban hatred against women. That's something the Scottish Government claims will be addressed with a separate law against misogyny that is yet to come. Now, JKROWLING has labelled the new law ludicrous and has pointed out its flaws. The 58-year-old author listed several examples of what she could be sent to prison for, and that is for misgendering double rapist Isla Bryson and misgendering 6'5" convicted pedophile Katie Delatowski, who was sent to a women's prison after sexually assaulting a 10-year-old girl in a female bathroom.
It's not a secret JKROWLING has been a very loud voice when it comes to calling out woke BS. Especially the tea movement. She's the author of iconic Harry Potter books who, after stating on many occasions that trans women aren't women and that it is unfair to have biological men compete in women's sports, had people turn on her. People who she gave careers to, who she made who they are today. I'm speaking about makers and cast of Harry Potter movies, but not only. Half of woke Hollywood is against her, but it's a long story for another episode. Bottom line, she has an army of haters on her back for many years now for voicing her opinions. So if you didn't catch that in the video we just watched, you could be thrown in jail for misgendering someone, for making fun of someone, for insulting someone, just because they had their feelings hurt. I seriously can't believe this idiotic mass delusion continues. Last year, when the transgender movement seemed to be at its peak, I thought things would be dying down by now. I'd hope enough people would open their eyes and see that this whole thing just doesn't make sense. As you saw in a video, many predators slipped under the trans umbrella and found an opportunity to do despicable things while being protected for being underprivileged, for being the minority. JKROWLING posted on Twitter, and yes, I'll keep calling it Twitter till the end of time. Scotland's Hate Crime Act comes into effect today. Women gain no additional protections, of course, but well-known trans activist Beth Douglas, darling of prominent Scottish politicians, falls within a protected category. Phew! Notice the number 1 out of 11. Yes, Rowling went on a whole Twitter journey here. She started calling out famous trans activists that have been proven to be predators or criminals. Yet, it would be Rowling who would go to jail for misgendering them. The person in her first tweet is Beth Douglas, who previously has been known to post violent threats against women and generally showed aggressive behavior online. Here are some other ones she called out in her Twitter posts. Lovely Scottish lass and convicted double apist Isla Bryson found her true authentic female self shortly before she was due to be sentenced. Misgendering is hate, so respect Isla's pronouns. Please, love the leggings. Oh god, here's another one. Samantha Norris was cleared of exposing her penis to 2 11-year-old girls. Hooray! Unfortunately, she was then convicted for possession of 16,000 images of CP. I'm not going to go into detail. Be that as it may, Sam's still a lady to me. And this one. Scottish woman and butcher, Amy George, abducted an 11-year-old girl while dressed in female clothing. No idea why this was mentioned in court. Of course she was wearing women's clothing. She's a woman. Amy took the girl home and essayed her. By the way, she uses the she pronouns ironically, if you didn't get that. And before anyone comes after me for saying she as well when talking about those men, I am reading Please notice that. Those aren't my words. Those are sarcastic words of J.K. Rowling. I'm making this disclaimer because I find comments under my videos saying I play into their delusions by saying she. I am not saying she when it's a he. Anyway, Rowling tweeted this at the end. Only kidding. Obviously, the people mentioned in the above tweets aren't women at all. And someone answered to her, "You're a transphobic POS." To that, Rowling said, "The intelligence and wit of today's finely owned counter-arguments are well up to their usual high standard." Since April 1st, when the law was announced, her account has been on fire. J.K. Rowling was trending, maybe still is right now. Scotland officially lost it, my friends, telling us we can't state facts anymore. You can't look at a man in a dress and say they're a man. Anyway, the April 1st tweet continues. It's quite a statement and I'll read it all to you right now. So let's start again. Only kidding. Obviously, the people mentioned in the above tweets aren't women at all, but men, every last one of them. In passing the Scottish Hate Crime Act, Scottish lawmakers seem to have placed higher value on the feelings of men performing their idea of femaleness, however misogynistically or opportunistically, than on the rights and freedoms of actual women and girls. The new legislation is wide open to abuse by activists who wish to silence those of us speaking out about the dangers of eliminating women's and girls' single-sex spaces. The nonsense made of crime data if violent and sexual assault committed by men are recorded as female crimes, the grotesque unfairness of allowing males to compete in female sports, the injustice of women's jobs, honors, and opportunities being taken by trans-identifying men, and the reality and immutability of biological sex. For several years now, Scottish women have been pressured by their government and members of the police force to deny the evidence of their eyes and ears, repudiate biological facts, and embrace a new religious concept of gender that is unprovable and untestable. The redefinition of women to include every man who declares himself one has already had serious consequences for women's and girls' rights and safety in Scotland, with the strongest impact felt as ever by the most vulnerable, including female prisoners and rape survivors. This is impossible to accurately describe or tackle the reality of violence and sexual violence committed against women and girls, or address the current assault on women's and girls' rights, unless we are allowed to call a man a man. Freedom of speech and belief are at an end in Scotland if the accurate description of biological sex is deemed criminal. I'm currently out of the country, but if what I've written here qualifies as an offence under the terms of the new act, I look forward to being arrested when I return to the birthplace of the Scottish Enlightenment. If you agree with these views set out in this tweet, please retweet it. How could you disagree with that? How? Valid, logical, refreshing that someone is speaking so unapologetically about this insanity, even though they are being silenced by laws now, by the government. So what would be the consequence of it? Here is one of the journalists speaking about it and points out a gloomy picture for Scotland at the moment.
The bill criminalises hurty words or biological fact. Children could report their parents for things said around the dinner table. Somebody sitting next to you at a pub could report you for what you say over a pint with your mate. And you will be investigated by the police. Police Scotland have confirmed they will investigate every single report. Humza Yousaf is promising you that you have nothing to fear.
Funny he mentioned that Scottish police said they will investigate every single claim, because apparently the police was swamped by phone calls, thousands of phone calls about different types of hate crimes, reporting even on things from the past. Take a look.
Scottish police have received almost 4,000 new complaints since Scotland's new hate law crimes came into play earlier this week. Complaints made included complaints against Humza Yousaf for his speech 4 years ago where it seemed to be incredibly anti-white, which prompted Elon Musk to brand him a blatant racist. In that speech, he was talking about the lack of black or brown people in positions of power. I'm not really sure what he's talking about. We have a black leader of the Welsh government, we have a brown leader of the Scottish government, and we have a brown leader of the British government in Westminster. There are numerous members of ethnic minorities representing constituents around the country. Some shouldn't be in those positions of power, not because of their race, but because of their incompetence. Look at Diane Abbott, for example. Completely unfit for that job. But going back to Scotland's new hate crime law, It sounds as if this is going to be a complete mess. The police have enough to do as it is, without fielding complaints from the public, from people hearing someone say blind as a mouse or deaf as a post because they've offended blind or deaf people. Or what about voicing genuine concerns about immigration and the pressure it's putting on our country? Can that be construed as hate crime? And what if you call a man with a wig and a frock on a man? Will that get the book thrown at you? Or what if someone calls me an old white fart? Can I get the police to come and pay you a visit? But relax, feel free to call me what you want. I won't be making any phone calls to the police. I'm not that thin-skinned. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for prosecuting and eradicating real hate crimes. But name-calling, come on. To be fair, it's not even name-calling in the majority of these cases. Misgendering, what the hell's that all about? I think Scotland's new hate crime laws need to be renamed anti-freedom of speech laws. Because basically, that's what they are.
So now resources of Scottish police are spent on answering butthurt phone calls because someone refused to call a man in a wig she or a woman with fake mustache he. Well done. Can't wait to see documentaries about it in 20 years trying to explain to the next generation what the hell were we thinking? Why did we screw it up so badly? How come there was so few people that stood up to it? And those will be very fair questions to ask. Here are some comments of the users that support JK Rowling and are against the new law. JK Rowling is a voice of reason in a desert of stupidity. My car was vandalized in Aberdeen. I saw them do it. I took a photo of the people and their vehicle. The police, after finally getting through to them, went to the registered keeper of their car. They denied it and the case was closed. Truly pathetic. But let's get arrested and charged for a bloody tweet. I'm ashamed. And this one, I stand by JK Rowling and I'd go to prison for it. This is the biggest threat to a womanhood in the whole of our human history. Okay, so we know the reaction to this law of the sane people, but what about those less sane? AKA the T community. Well, of course they are loving the new law. They hate JK Rowling, immediately started calling for her arrest over her most recent statements. We saw comments like, well, the bitch is back. So nice not having the mouthy queen TERF on here for a few days. I really do hope JK Rowling incriminates herself so Police Scotland arrest, then send her for prosecution and she ends up behind bars. At least there she'll be off Twitter. Isn't it hate crime, by the way? He called her a bitch. Can they put him in jail now? Fortunately, the police will not take any actions against the author. Daily Mail wrote, JK Rowling's defiant trans tweets are not criminal. Police refuse to arrest author amid furious backlash at new SNP hate crime laws. As she says, she hopes every woman who wants to speak up for importance of biological sex will be reassured. We were, of course, expecting members of LGBTQ community to speak out about it, and here is one of the clips I found.
So Scotland just passed a new law, and let me explain why so many people are mad about it. Scotland just passed a hate speech law, which now makes it illegal to focus on prejudice against certain demographics here in Scotland. The people now protected under this law are people like disabled people, old people, your religion is protected under this law, intersex people are protected under this law, gay people, transgender people are now all protected under this law. Essentially, that means that you cannot use your prejudice to attack people like this. It is now considered a hate crime. That includes comments that you make on social media. And let's face it, the only people that are mad about this are the people that it genuinely affects. And the only people that this law affects are the people spouting hate towards these demographics, either online or in real life. If you're not engaging in hate towards these demographics, then this law doesn't affect you at all. But of course, if you pass a law and people like Elon Musk and JK Rowling are mad about it, I think you know you're doing something right. Racial hate crimes are also included under this act, but racial hate crimes were already illegal in Scotland under a previous older act, but they are still included. The only people that aren't included under this act are women, because the Scottish Government says a new misogyny-based law that protects women is coming into effect in the near future. And don't take my word for it, here it is reported literally on the news.
There is one more row. It does not protect women as a group from hatred. The Scottish Government says a separate misogyny law is on the way to do that.
So yeah, it's basically an act that says don't be a dick on main, and all of the dicks who are dicks on main are mad about it because it means that they can't be a dick on main. That's why people are upset, because they cannot be hateful on the internet anymore. It is now illegal. A lot of people are saying that it infringes on freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is against the government. You are not free from the consequences of your hate. Let's get that very, very clear. However, The hate speech law does include a right to shock and to offend.
Critics say police are going to end up investigating floods of complaints about social media posts, making people afraid to speak their mind. But supporters say the law does contain safeguards. For example, it talks about a right to offend, shock or disturb.
Right to offend, shock or disturb is protected. But further explanation about the law and how it's supposed to be interpreted prove otherwise. BBC says the Hate Crime and Public Order Scotland Act 2021 creates a new crime of stirring up hatred relating to age, disability, religion, sexual orientation, transgender identity, or being intersex. The maximum penalty is a prison sentence of 7 years. A person commits an offence if they communicate material or behave in a manner that a reasonable person would consider to be threatening or abusive, with the intention of stirring up hatred based on the protected characteristics. Stirring up hatred based on race, color, nationality, or ethnicity was already illegal in Great Britain under the Public Order Act 1986, but in an attempt to streamline the criminal law in Scotland, that too is now part of the Hate Crime Act. And now listen, the bar for this offence is lower than for the other protected characteristics, as it also includes insulting behavior, and as the prosecution need only prove that stirring up hatred was likely rather than intended. So it all depends on interpretation. If someone perceives a certain thing as a hate crime, they can report it. They can send someone to jail over this. It is ridiculous and it's very scary. And let me remind you, because I know we are heavily focusing on the trans community here, there are other groups that are protected by this law. And while in normal circumstances I'd say, yeah, of course we need laws protecting the elderly and disabled, etc., in this case, imagine describing someone as a grumpy old man and being prosecuted over this. Well, I guess now, when you teach your toddlers that name calling is bad, you can add, you will go to jail for it. It will work. But as usual, I want to know what you guys think. Do you believe the new Scottish law could be implemented in your country? Do you agree with JK Rowling? Let me know in the comments. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications to never miss another Daily Freddo episode. For even more content, check out my Patreon and follow me on Instagram @DailyFreddo. That's all for today. Have a good one.